Hello, it's Mayor Jeff Schielke reporting to the community on Friday, August 21st, 2020. And we are continuing to be in the midst of the coronavirus situation, and one that continues to tax all of our community in various ways. We've seen some uptake in the number of people who are reporting that they have the symptoms or have been diagnosed to have it. So again, I want to just use this opportunity to encourage everyone in town, if you can, to wear one of these masks. I generally have one hanging around my neck most of the time, except like when I'm doing this, I don't put the mask on because it sometimes hinders my voice. And I don't put it on when I'm doing the city council meetings because we're socially distanced at that particular situation. And again, the camera's on me and the microphone's on, and with the mask on, sometimes it's hard for people to hear. So that's the reason I don't wear the mask in certain situations like this. But again, I'd encourage everyone to please continue to be diligent and aware in this whole thing, because it has not gone away. It continues to be a problematic issue, and hopefully cures are going to be found soon, and we'll get on with things. But to this moment, we continue to preach caution and encourage all of our residents to be very, very aware of their surroundings and stay your distance from everybody so you don't communicate or they communicate a disease to you. Again, one of the great issues that we are facing in town right as we speak is unfortunately at our police department, where I'm a big admirer of the great job that I feel the Batavia Police Department does in working with our community. But we seem to be getting a high volume of calls relating to crime over the internet or crime of technology of some sort. And one of the more recent things that we've had a number of calls on in the last couple of weeks is people being sent in the mail debit cards that they're encouraged to go charge things or buy things or whatever with this debit card. And then as soon as you use it, somebody's on the phone calling you saying, well, you've spent some money on this, now we need to have your credit card numbers so that we can make sure that we have some ability to charge these expenses to you. And so then if you are hopefully not, you don't give them the number, because if they're doing this all over the phone, there's a high likelihood that this could be somebody who is trying to criminally obtain your numbers and then runs out and spends a lot off your credit card number, and suddenly you're faced with a bill of a lot of money that somebody's used to buy stuff with because they were able to obtain your identities. So the whole identity theft thing is something that's ongoing. There's a variety of other ways that people do it, that they try to call you and say, this is your grandson and I'm being held in a jail in some town, and please go buy 200 $10 gift cards at Target and send them right away to this address, so that will be my bail to get me out. And then they find out that that's not the case. There's just a lot of this stuff going on. So be very, very aware of all that. One thing that the police have encouraged me to share with you is that when they call you on the phone, if they call you, one of the things they will say is, we're looking to talk to Jeffrey Schielke. I'll use myself as an example. And they'll say, is this Jeffrey? And then they want you to use the word yes, because they are probably recording your number and what you're saying on the phone. And then when they hang up from you, if you've been dumb enough to give them one of your some type of identity, they will call up and place an order for something, or a cash advance or whatever, and they'll say, is this really Jeffrey Schielke? And they've got your voice saying yes. So one of the things that they're encouraging people to say, if you're talking to these people on the phone, don't say yes to them, because that is the kind of the catalyst that allows them to do some very dangerous things with your identity. So again, just the words of warning, because it is a very prevalent and prevailing issue going on in our town, and something that we want to express very strong caution to. Another area that I like to speak to, and I'm very proud to be able to share with this, is that we have some extraordinarily generous, kind-hearted, very loving souls in this town who are very, very generous with their own personal assets and who on many, many instances want to always remain totally anonymous in the background and don't want anybody to know who they are, how much they gave, why they gave it, or whatever. And there's, as we all know, there's a lot of very good causes in this town, and I have the great honor, and I mean this very sincerely, of being friends with some of these people, and there's a couple that I'm thinking of right now that are just extraordinarily good, kind individuals who have hearts of gold and who have a generosity spirit that is shoots into the moon. And you know, I know some that will go into the grocery store and they'll get, if they get behind a senior citizen who seems to be having trouble getting their credit card out or whatever have you, they'll just lay some money on the counter and pay for the person's groceries. Or if they're in a restaurant and they see a couple that they think could use some support, they will ask the waitress to give them their bill and they'll pay their bill. Or I've seen another example rather recently where some folks went to a couple of our car washes in town, one specifically, and walked in, and there were some elderly folks there who were kind of mystified by what was going on. And in the case of this one that I know, this lady wanted to pay for their particular car wash and service on their car. So it's these types of actions that I think speak to the heart of Batavia and how fortunate as a community we are that we have these very good, generous people. And so I just want to take my hat off, and I'm not naming any of them because they all want to remain in the darkness and just share their generosity and their support for others in their own way. And that's very, very kind-hearted and, you know, very Christian attitude to have, because they are really fulfilling, you know, the missions of teachings that they're here to help their fellow person. And if they have been fortunate to make a lot of money or have assets that they want to share, that's tremendous. And I just am overwhelmed with admiration for those people. Beyond that, we've got some organizations in town that are quite public in their support of others, and one of the big ones is the Batavia Interfaith Food Pantry, which is located on South Shumway Avenue at Flynn Street, right next to the Batavia Water Treatment Facility. And it is, again, if you're looking to make a generous donation to some organization, I would strongly encourage you to think about making one to the Batavia Interfaith Food Pantry, because they have a dynamic executive director down there. They've got an all-volunteer staff. They all do great things. And I just want to say that that's a phenomenal organization. We have other groups that are trying to raise some money to do some good things. And one of them is the Fox Valley, it's FVSRA, who is here to help people with serious disabilities, and they supply bus trips and meals and do all kinds of, again, kind acts of what's going on. And so they have just sent me a flyer today in which they are indicating that they're going to have a couple of drive-through barbecue dinners that they're going to offer. One's going to be on Tuesday, August 25th from 4:30 to 6:30 at the St. Charles Park District Aquatic Center, or outer Fox Valley Park District Outer Cove Aqua Center. And then the other one's going to be on Wednesday, August 26th from 4:30 till 6:30 at the Fox Valley Park District at Phillips Parks Family Center in Aurora. So one in St. Charles and one in Aurora. On August 25th and 26th, they're going to have a drive-through barbecue where you donate the money, you get the barbecue, and then you come home and eat it. So again, FVSRA stands for Fox Valley Special Recreation Association. And they are another great group, and I just want to encourage anybody that would like to make some donation to a worthy cause. Those are two places that I would tell you that that money could go a long way. We are extremely very fortunate that we have in Batavia all these things that are going on. And one of the things I like to do is at the end, before I end, is talk a little bit about the history of Batavia. And one of the things I would like to talk about today is the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. And as we're all familiar, this is a picture of the Fermilab high-rise in the executive office building that surrounds it in the parking lot. As many of you know, Fermilab is now under reconstruction for about almost $1.5 billion to build another accelerator to explore the backgrounds of the neutron. And in this picture where this is, one of the new buildings for that is being built to the immediate east of the high rise. And then there's another building that's being built kind of down almost near the city of Batavia's water tower on Kirk Road at the south end of Batavia. Fermilab came to Batavia. It was announced on December 16th, 1966 at the White House with Lyndon Johnson as president. And there's always been widespread speculation as to why Fermilab got chosen in Illinois. And I've had the opportunity over the years to talk with some of the very interesting political families we have. And I think there's widespread thought that at the end of the day, the driving force in Fermilab coming to Illinois was by Republican Senator Everett McKinley Dirksen out of Pekin, who was the Republican voice in the U.S. Senate at the time. And so the supposition is that Lyndon Johnson was president, and he made the announcement on December 16th, which ironically was about 4 or 5 weeks after what had been the senatorial election in Illinois that year, in which Paul Douglas, who had been a 3-term Democratic senator, had been defeated by the president of Bell and Howell, Charles Percy, to be the new senator for Illinois. And I know there were some Democrats that wondered if Johnson was going to make this big announcement about Illinois, why he didn't do it in early November to give Douglas some edge in this whole thing. But no, it seems like he gave it to Dirksen. Well, if you look at the political history, following the assassination of John F. Kennedy and the accession of Johnson to the White House, there was a whole bunch of things that were quickly spread through Congress with the support of Everett Dirksen. And probably one of the more interesting ones was the Civil Rights Bill, which was passed in 1964, early 64, which was monumental legislation. Another one was Johnson's War on Poverty. And then there was, I believe, some further expansion of some of the social services of Social Security, Medicare, etc. So Johnson was very much beholden to the support he had gotten from Everett McKinley Dirksen, and that is supposedly the political link that allowed this to happen. Now, for Batavia to have this facility built in our town, that was quite a monumental moment because of all the things that have happened in Batavia over its many hundred and almost 175-year history here. One of the things that probably is the biggest was the arrival of this, because one only needs to think about, had this not been announced in 1966 that it was going to be built there, can you imagine today how much development would be on that site? You need only look all the way around it, any direction, and there's all this industrial, and there's retail, and there's apartments and shopping centers and all kinds of houses. I'm sure Fermilab's 6,800 acres would have become one mass of urbanization, and that would have brought a very, very strong change in appearance to Batavia with it. I would tell you things would look a lot different had that all happened. But Fermilab, by coming in, took all that off the development rolls, turned this thing into a wonder of science, which now is being, the new additions being funded by a number of foreign countries. But the most interesting thing is some of the research that's come out of Fermilab, and a couple years ago I was invited out there when the International Engineers Association came in and presented to the lab a plaque that they now have hanging on the wall at the Fermilab high-rise, which acknowledges the fact that the technology that was developed that led to the creation of the MRI medical research machine was pioneered at Fermilab. And so the MRI now is one of the wonders of modern medicine. There's probably been thousands, if not millions, of lives impacted by its abilities. And to think that this is something that the technology of which was created at Fermilab, I think really is something that as a community we should be very, very proud of. I just wanted to share a couple of other photographs. A lot of things happened in Batavia when Fermilab came, and one of them was Fermilab was announced in 1966, December, and then in 68 they had the groundbreaking for it. So there began this need for new housing. And so one of the things that came up was, well, let's build some apartment complexes. So the city of Batavia came up with the idea of building one on East Wilson Street, where you would have residential on the south side of Wilson, and then you would have industrial north of Wilson, but you would have as a buffer between the residential homes and the industrial buildings that obviously were built to the north, you would have a rental apartment complex, which would be kind of the buffer between those two uses. And so I have today a picture here that shows the barn that used to stand on the location till 1970, early 71. This was out there, was the farm had been abandoned. Some of the names of the families that were out there around what today is the intersection at Kirk Road and Wilson Street were the Meisch family, the Luton's family, the Comas family, the Phillips family, and then down the street was the Tice family, and they had a very famous vegetable stand that used to be out at the intersection of what was then Wilson Street and Warrenville Road. And so those were some of the families that were very, very active in this area. But in 1971, as we were preparing to start construction of what now is the Batavia Apartments, which is a 290 apartment unit complex, the Batavia Fire Department was asked to burn this building down. And so as my final picture of the day, I'm going to show this particular picture of the fire that the Batavia Fire Department deliberately set to kind of be the urban renewal to clear the site to allow for the building of the Batavia Apartments. So you can see sometimes you can use fire for a very positive attraction into your community. As we all know, Batavia Apartments provides housing to a number of people who need housing support. They have really been a very cooperative entity within the town. If they have had any problems out there, we've been able to talk with them, and we've adopted a crime-free housing program in Batavia. So if anybody wants to move into any apartment complex and go in a criminal way, we have the ability as a home rule municipality, we can have those people removed from their apartment. And we've done this a couple times, not a lot, but we have done it, and I think it's worked quite well. So this is the picture of the fire that was set in early 1971 so they could begin construction of the Batavia Apartments. So that's enough for me today. I will look forward to talking with you next week, and I hope that you have a very good and kind week. And again, I want to just highlight the generosity of these wonderful people. Many of them have beautiful faces and great looks, and they're just, you would never guess that they are these great hearts of gold and kindness that this town is truly blessed to have. And I just want to pay a moment of tribute to them for what they are doing to support people of less fortune. So thank you all. We are a wonderful town. We have a lot of good things going for us, and we will get through this coronavirus and spiral forward into more progressive days. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Have a good week.